okay, I really have to do this right now, because if I don't do it right now, I'm probably never going to do it, because there are so many videos I want to make right now. I want to make a video about how Bloomberg is going to destroy the country for the next 10 years because of his candidacy, and I have evidence to back this up. I want to do a video on this thread I made last week that I don't think got enough play. So I'm just gonna make a video out of it, and fuck it. So anyway, all these things that I want to do all of a sudden, and which kind of have expiration dates for Super Tuesday, I really should do this Q&A video. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with this preliminary question that I got on Curious Cat a few weeks ago, which I answered on Curious Cat, you probably saw, but because I thought it would be helpful for anyone who is asking questions for this video. Anon asks, I'm a new viewer, what are your boundaries on YouTube and Twitter comments? And basically my answer, as is posted on here, is I really don't care, as long as it's not, obvious hate speech or just deliberately annoying, right? One of the fan communities you notice I'm most involved in is with Kevin Logan's channel. That's probably indicative of, my sense of humor and irony and my general sense of Britishness. Is that a way we would describe not giving a crap? Maybe. Yeah, so anyone who wants to leave comments on YouTube or Twitter or Curious Cat, I don't really have very many boundaries. Just don't be an asshole. I'm pretty open about things, right? I'll probably not, give you identifying credit card information, okay? That's probably a hard limit. But yeah, other than that kind of stuff, ask me whatever, right? If you've seen my Twitter, I post equally about politics and BDSM sex toys and anime and yeah, I mean, I don't really have barriers to that stuff. This one was on YouTube, but I wanted to use it for this video anyway, from Herbie Varsovus. I think I said that right. In what sense are you a conservative and why? I also answered this one because I wasn't sure if it was for a Q&A question, but I wanted to use it here anyway because it's a useful question. I'm conservative in the sense that I believe in power structures. I believe the state is a good thing. I believe that tradition is good, as abstract concepts, right? Not necessarily that our state is good or a specific state is good or that a specific tradition is good, but as abstract concepts, I think those things are very useful. I think those things are pretty pre-programmed into human nature. I also don't have a very high opinion of majority rule, because Bloomberg probably lost more votes to the fact that he's shorter than Elizabeth Warren than the fact that his policies are garbage. If you can name any of his policies, I should say. And studies have shown that kind of thing, the taller candidate always winning the presidential election, that's just a thing that happens. Because people aren't rational actors, they're stupid actors. And, if you've seen my channel, you know already that I don't adopt usual, even though I would consider myself someone who's generally pro-social justice, you'll note that I almost never adopt the normal speaking points, which are leftist speaking points in terms of compassion and egalitarianism for the sake of egalitarianism. Those things don't really pop up on my channel a lot. I think they're useful, and I do mention them from time to time, but that's not really how I direct my arguments, because it's not how I think of arguments, right? I think in a very right-brained way. So that's the best way I can describe that. This next one comes from Twitter. It was the only question we got on Twitter, I think. I don't think I missed any. I went back and checked. I think this is a response to the Prager video we did on abortion. Sort of a response, just out of curiosity. What if a mother gets snowed in with her newborn? Plenty of food and shelter, but no baby formula. Should that woman have a legal right to refuse to breastfeed and starve her newborn? Parentheses. Forecast shows the storm passing in weeks. The situation is temporary, not life-threatening. That's from Kali Hulaid. I mean, there's a lot of abstracts that are missing from this ethical quandary that you've tried to pose me. I don't know if this was posed as a gotcha or just out of curiosity. It sounds like it's trying to be a gotcha, but like there's no contextual information here, right? How many other people died in this storm? Was there a mandatory evacuation that this mother ignored? So therefore, put those two together. Is she a statistical outlier, or did this happen a lot, right? That would generally be how we'd analyze these kinds of situations. But generally speaking, no, not really. You don't really have a right to not be a parent. You've already made that choice. You carried the child for 9 months, and you probably knew you were pregnant. Maybe she didn't know. There were other things that you would ask for, like has she expressed that she wanted to kill her baby in the past, and this was a convenient excuse, that sort of thing. If there's plenty of food but no baby formula, that would mean that she prepared for herself and not for the baby. That would fall under criminal negligence and child neglect, and ultimately probably murder, yeah. So that's how I would answer that quandary. Again, like I said, there's not really a lot of information to go on here. So, yeah. That's the best I can do with what you've given me. Alright, and the rest of these all come from Curious Cat. So thank you guys for using Curious Cat. It's all anonymous questions, so I can't thank anyone for thanking me, so I'll just thank you collectively as a general rule. First question is a real hardball. What's your favorite chip flavor? I presume that's American chip, not British chip. It's hard to tell because most of my audience is British, or European at least. If YouTube stats are to be believed, but of course YouTube stats also say that I have a 100% male audience, which I know isn't true. But anyway, assuming this is an American chip thing, favorite chip flavor is probably kettle cooked salt and pepper chips. Those are probably my favorites. I'm not a big fan of chips in general, or crisps if you're British. So I don't get them often, and it's usually really basic stuff like that. If you mean chips in the sense of the British term, however, bay fries are the best chip. The best fry flavor is bay fries, which is just fries with bay spice sprinkled on them. Those are great. Anon also asks, different Anon, what is the worst book you've ever read? I probably have two answers to that question, and I don't know if either of them really count. The first one is a friend of mine sent me 50 Shades of Grey in a PDF format because she knows I struggle with self-confidence in my work a lot. And so she's like, this made $1 billion, you have to read it because I've seen you do better. So, I mean, that wasn't like a book I was reading, so I don't think it really counts. I also don't have expectations for a lot of things, so I would think I would have to say the worst book, or the most disappointing book I ever read was Lord of the Rings. I couldn't get through it. I tried really hard. I couldn't get through it. I tried skipping ahead to places where things got more interesting or exciting, hopefully, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't find a way to make the book work for me. And I wanted it to, which is why I'd probably rank it as the worst book ever, because I don't, like, I've probably read worse books than The Lord of the Rings, but I don't remember them because I don't have expectations when I open something, right? I don't follow authors or actors or directors or musicians. Like, every song, every book, every movie has to stand up on its own for me. And I don't give people credit for their portfolio. So, like, if I read like a shitty pulp book, like, it was just a shitty pulp book. That's all it was. Like, nothing sticks out to me as abhorrently bad. The only other contender would probably be this short story collection that was supposed to be erotic lesbian short stories, but it was all basically just short story adaptations of like videos on Pornhub, because I recognized a couple and I assumed that the rest of them were all just that. Someone watched a porn movie and wrote it out word for word. That might also be a contender, but like I said, I didn't really have the expectation that that was going to be good. It was just free. Anon asked, what are your goals for your channel? I don't really have goals as such. I want my channel to be fun right now. Like, the only goal I really have with the channel is to do my Andromeda things. I haven't really done that in a few months, and I really should get back on that sometime. Because I like that series, and I think it's underappreciated, and I feel like no one else is really bothering to do that. So it's an empty void that needs filling, right? Other than that, I don't really have goals right now. Like I said in the 2020 news video, like, this is just a hobby for me. If I get real recording equipment, like right now I am using a cheap Chinese headset in my room, which has no padding because I'm poor and I can't afford anything. So, like, I really don't have much expectations for that. The only other goal I would maybe say is that I like to take issues, and this is from the political side, obviously. I like to take the issues and ideas that are being discussed in terms of like political philosophy and try to discuss them in a new way, right? This is going to sound out of left field, but as a weeb reference, there's this Yuri series called Sakura Trick, which is a slice of life girl-on-girl romance series, which got attention because a lot of people who liked slice of life, they felt both uncomfortable and also intrigued that there was a way to shake up the genre that they hadn't considered before. And I kind of feel like I want to try to do that with a lot of the stances in the videos I make. There are a lot of videos that I probably could just make, but they wouldn't be adding to a conversation. They would just be piling on what's already been said, right? So I try to make sure that if I attack a subject that, at least as far as I see, no one has ever approached it in quite the same manner I have. Unless, of course, it is specifically like a takedown video or one of the shitpost videos like the J.K. Rowling video. Anon asked, are you an atheist? I am not an atheist. I wouldn't even consider myself necessarily a skeptic. Yeah, I have faith. It's not a traditional faith. It's very hodgepodge, and there is a word for it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I could probably look it up. if I look it up, I'll put it on the screen right now for you to read. But it's basically, I have my own gods, which are less gods in terms of like they direct my destiny more as things I want to emulate and entities slash beliefs that I would want to be happy with me if they existed. That sort of thing. It's complicated, but I am a person of faith. Let's just leave it at that. This one got asked a couple hours before I sat down to do this video, which is when I saw that the first question was from 3 weeks ago, so I decided I'd do this right now. Anon asks, I'm a new viewer to your channel as well. I enjoy your videos on politics and philosophy in particular. I think you have a pretty interesting way of looking at things. Thank you very much. My question is, how do you rate the current presidential candidates, and which one would you prefer and why? Or which ones? Also, if you are open to this, I'd love to have a conversation because I have a lot of questions. Yeah, let's start with the last part first. I don't really mind having conversations, I guess. I don't know where I'd have them. Like, Twitter is an awful place to have conversations. Maybe I should get a Discord server. Like, specifically for my online persona here, the YouTube persona / Twitter persona that I use. If you want to see a Discord server, leave a comment on this video, and, you know, I don't want to be the only person. That would make me feel like a loser. Stepping back to the first part, how would you rate presidential candidates, and which ones would you prefer and why? Oh boy. I want to do a Bloomberg video because I think he's going to destroy the Democrats' chances of ever fixing the country. Because that's where we're at right now. We have to rely on the Democrats to fix the country. Specifically in regards to things like climate change and all that other stuff. Because Bloomberg is destroying the Democrats' chances of sweeping in state governments in local races in 2020, and 2020 is the census year, which means that this elected Congress, or in this elected state legislature, is going to be doing the redistricting. So yeah, fuck Bloomberg for ruining those chances. Let's see, Biden, I feel like Biden is... I feel like Biden's mostly been running as an obligation, because he realized that he missed his window last time. Not that anyone should, like, feel bad, like, his kid died, right? Like, obviously he had a lot of shit going on. But I think that he's, like, mostly running because he feels he bears some responsibility for Donald Trump. And I have a lot of affection for Joe Biden, by the way. Like, yeah, he's kind of goofy and a little creepy sometimes. But also, let's remember, it was Joe Biden that, like, forced the Obama administration to come out in favor of gay marriage. That one unscripted moment he had on, what was it? This Morning on CBS, I think it was. He forced the White House to back him up on that. Whereas previously they had never done that. Now, you could say, like, oh, that was all part of the plan. Like, if it didn't go over well, then they were gonna denounce him. But the fact that we know for a fact that Joe Biden was locked out of the White House, basically, for the next 2 years, at least. After that, he was no longer invited to, like, the Security Council or cabinet meetings. Like, he was shut out after that interview, which would imply that it was not scripted. So I have a lot of affection to Biden for that, and I appreciate it. But I don't think it's his time. I think his time is past. He had his chance. I think he missed it. I would rather see him drop out than anything. I know he wants to stay in because he thinks we need to have a centrist or something. Buttigieg, I have also mixed feelings on. I don't think he would be great. He is the only candidate who launched his campaign, and he hasn't really talked about it much because these issues don't bother people a lot. But when he launched his campaign, he was very big on boosting the Supreme Court's numbers, amending the Constitution to put more checks on the executive branch, that sort of thing. He had a lot of things, these are things that, not necessarily he could get done as president per se, but, bully pulpit stuff. That is interesting. I think I would like his voice in that regard to continue. As I am recording this, last night is when Buttigieg said that the civil rights movement was too far to the left, so I don't know how much of a chance he has after that. The people who would say, yeah, good on you, Pete, for sticking up to the 60s hippies are also the same people who would say, I'm never voting for a gay man in my life, right? So I'm not sure what his futures look like at this point. I guess South Carolina will show us all. Steyer is still in the race, technically. I find him to be interesting. He seems kind of like a Gerald Ford of our era, right? He's just happy. He's just happy to be here. He's been doing some really cynical moves that have been paying off really well in South Carolina. Specifically, he has been hiring specifically black staffers to do his canvassing for him. And it seems to have been paying off well because he's polling in double digits there. Which is very cynical, but also very telling, I think. The two big candidates for me, Sanders, I don't mind. If he wins the nomination, I'm fine with that. Not necessarily because I agree with his policy stuff. I'm actually working on that Empire video, which is what I want to make my big project for the year. I opened that video by pointing out that I'm one of the few people who hated Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders in equal measure on January 21st, 2017, because they were both aligned on the issue of the TPP, stuff like that. But I don't necessarily agree with Sanders. I think he is the one who is using the media the best right now. And this goes back to the video I want to make that was about my Twitter thread, is that Sanders has a base, a fallback point that is uncontested. And he's using that base to do his legwork for him in the same way that Trump used his base to do his legwork for him, right? The short version is Trump doesn't think before he says his stupid policy things, right? But the base comes out, and within 3 hours of Trump tweeting something stupid like we should, Sotomayor should, recuse herself from all of my cases from now on, within hours there's 1,000 pundits who want to get their name in the pages writing opinion pieces about, well, this would actually be a good thing, here's why. And one of them will stick, and one of them will catch on. It only takes one, right? Bernie's kind of doing the same thing. He's not as methodical, and he's not as organized as Boren's campaign is, in terms of her plans and her policies and her budgets. But he doesn't have to be, right? Because the media spends all of its time worrying about who's in the front of the pack. They don't care about the substance of policies. That's what the base is for, right? The base will show up and they'll write papers. They'll be like, this is a good thing, actually, and here is why. And the media will just publish it and throw it at the screen. And a couple of ideas will be really good and they'll stick. And that's how he'll run his campaign. I still favor Warren because I think that even though Sanders has probably the better platform in terms of winning the election, I think that Warren would make the much better president. I think she would make a much better coalition builder in terms of reaching across the aisle kind of stuff. Not that Bernie's incapable of that, it's not what I'm saying. But I think Warren would be better. I think that Warren has a much more feasible agenda in terms of getting Nancy Pelosi to side with her on it. I think that it's easy for Nancy Pelosi to side against Bernie Sanders and look like the hero to Democrat establishment partisans, loyal partisan people, like not in terms of like the members of Congress, but in terms of like just everyday, Democrat volunteer lay people partisans. Those people would see Pelosi as a hero for opposing Bernie's Medicare for All. If Warren comes out with her Medicare for All, it will be much harder, I think, in terms of their relative bases of power and such, that Pelosi would kind of have to get into lockstep with what Warren wants. I think that would make her much more effective. That is power politics. That's how I'm looking at it. I also think that Warren has a stronger foreign policy than Bernie Sanders, a much more realistic one. Yeah. So I'm still hoping for Warren. I don't know if the point she's racked up by just murdering Mike Bloomberg on national television is going to be enough to save her. We'll find out. She's retreated to the state of Maine and I believe not Minnesota, because Klobuchar is Minnesota. What was the other one? Was it Michigan? I think was the other place she was focusing on. Like, she's trying to pull out a couple wins on Super Tuesday so that she can displace Sanders as a leftist viable alternative. As for Klobuchar, I don't really think much about Klobuchar at this point. She is... I don't know, she feels very out of time. She's like Biden. I think the age of her style of politics is long past. This is a post-Trump world. We aren't running in 2012. We're running in 2020. Everyone's got to get through with the program. Okay, that's everybody, I think. I think that's everybody. I might be forgetting someone. I don't care. And this final one is also from Anon. Oh my god, Anon. What's something you'd want people to ask you? That's a tough one. I suppose if I was going to say this, I'm pretending like I'm thinking about this. Like, I've actually thought about it a lot. This is kind of the question that stumped me the most. That and the chips one. So I'm just gonna wing it and say that this is my carte blanche to say whatever. Okay, I'm gonna make it up. Anon asks, you say you're an imperialist, but what's your favorite empire? And I'm going to answer, not Rome, not Persia, and not British. Bactria. Bactria is my favorite empire, which is the Greek Empire from basically Afghanistan. But yeah, that's what I'm putting down there. So yeah, because I think it's a very interesting story. That's all I got, really. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what people should be asking me. And that's everything. I think. I'll be posting physical replies to all of these in Curious Cat in a short while. And this will hopefully be uploaded before midnight tonight. And then I can get to work on all those other stupid things that I want to do. Okay, that was our Q&A video. Thank you guys all for subscribing. Thank you all for liking the stuff I do. And thank you all for giving me a chance to be a low quality, low effort bullshit channel that has, you know, people who care enough to ask questions. So thank you for that. Yeah, I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.